Hello pilots, it's an exciting day here at Motion RC because one of our most beloved models is back with a all new updated version 2. This is the F-16 90mm, a model that is very loved in our community and was sad to see it go, but it went for a good reason, and that is because now we have a new version of the aircraft. This has a lot of new molds and new pieces on the aircraft. They're gonna really improve the quality of it. The old one was a great airplane, loved by many, but hey, you know that we can do it better as we've learned over time. So here it is, the updated F-16. We're gonna get this thing out of the box. We're gonna start going over what makes this one different, and we're gonna show you how to put it together today. So without further ado, let's slide this cover off and get everything out of here. All right, now that we have it out of the box, it's time to get all the wrapping off and check over the airplane, make sure everything looks good. All right, now that everything's out of the box, what I want to do is go around the model and kind of show you what the changes were to this aircraft from the original version. So, starting up in the front of the aircraft, we have a new nose cone design that has a lot more scale fidelity and features added to the aircraft. As you move back, you'll see the cockpit is completely different now. So it's not as smoked as the old one was. It also has plastic cladding all the way around the outside of that battery bay that is going to keep it protected from damage when you're taking things in and out. Instead of having a magnetic battery hatch, you now have a release system to where you can take the battery hatch on and off. As we continue to move back, you'll notice that the mold was actually changed and rivet detail was actually added to the entire aircraft. So as you move back on the back, you'll see that rivet detail. Further on, you're going to now see the two cheater ducts that are added to the back of the aircraft. These things are spring-loaded, so whenever the throttle is increased, they open up. As you decrease in throttle, they close up to give that clean look, but add that air to the fan. Continuing onward, we now have air brakes that have been added to the model. These are functioning air brakes that you can open in flight and have the aircraft actually slow down using them. The tail also has rivet detail added all to it now. So this is another new mold. The aft section of the fuselage where your tailpipe is out of is actually a screw-on piece. So if you damage this now, you can just remove that and screw it on with a new piece. Now let's move on to the wings. What you're going to notice on the wings section of the aircraft is there is plastic cladding all along the receiving point where your quick connects are now. It's going to keep that nice and clean and not get any damage there, taking those wings on and off. As we move outwards on the wings, you're going to also notice that there is rivet detail all over the top of the wings now that really sharpen up the top of that wing. And out on the outboard section, you're going to see the new day-bright LEDs that have been installed in this aircraft that really, really light this thing up in the evening dusk hours. I mean, it's just blinks all over the sky. Now, if we turn the model over, what you're going to notice is gone are the magnetic rail systems. We now have all these plastic clip-on style missile rails. So no more are the drop tanks going to depart the aircraft on bad landings. They're going to stay attached to the aircraft. You also have the standard missile rails as you go on out on the wingtips. Another cool thing, while we have the aircraft upside down, is the wheel wells themselves. The doors used to be fiberglass on the aircraft. Now they are actually plastic molded parts with detailing, and they have also added magnets to all of this section to where when the gear go up and everything closes up, those magnets hold them closed. So if you have any airflow going over them, they're not going to open up in flight. Very cool little touch. You'll also notice that the landing gear is now painted white on the aircraft. As we move around to the front section, you're going to notice that the inlet air on the old aircraft did not have this little bar that goes in the center section of the opening. You can see that has been added on the new model for more scale fidelity. All right, now that we have all that out of the way, let's get over to the tech spec section of this, and then we're going to get this model assembled with you. Tech specs for the all-new 90mm F-16. This has 6 9-gram hybrid digital Metal Gear servos, 3 17-gram Metal Gear digital servos, 2 23-gram Metal Gear digital servos. The motor is a 3668 1960 kV in-runner motor. It runs with a 12-bladed ducted fan. The ESC is a 120 amp brushless ESC with thrust reversing. All up weight is 3,156 grams without the battery or the missiles. The missiles add 184 grams to the model. The LiPo battery recommendation is a 5,000 to 6,000 milliamp Admiral LiPo battery. For our 8S variant, the motor is a 4075 1350 kV in-runner motor, and it still uses the 12-bladed 90mm fan. All up weight on that aircraft is 3,300 grams without batteries or missiles. All right, pilots, it's actually time to start assembling the aircraft now. What we're gonna do is take our aft section of the fuselage and get this ready to install into the actual aircraft. What you're gonna notice is the aircraft comes with these little white pieces that are gonna need to be keyed into the carbon spars inside of that tail. This will help it slide in and out of the aircraft. Once you have those installed, you may give them a little drop of glue. It's time to actually slide that aft section of the fuselage onto the aircraft, and then you're going to take 2 of the machine threaded countersunk screws with the 2mm Allen key and install one at the top and one at the bottom. Once you have that done, your rear section of the fuselage is installed. Now that you have that tail piece installed onto the fuselage, it is time to get our actual air brakes installed. Now, before you put them on, go on and open them once or twice just to make sure they're okay and they're not stuck together. Mine actually came with a little bit of paint holding them together. Just unstick them just for a second. Once you've done that, you'll see they only fit on one direction. You need to install them according to the curvature of the fuselage, and they just kind of key in on top. So take those same screws that you used before on the tail cone, and we're going to install one on each side of our air brakes. All right, pilots, at this point it's time to get our elevators put on. These are our full flying stabs, just like the real aircraft. What you'll notice is you have 2 silver aluminum rods that come in the kit. You'll notice that one end of them is notched out. The notches are going to be the piece that goes into the fuselage, and those are going to line up with the screw receiving points that we're going to put 2 of our countersunk wood screws down into the plastic. That will affix the elevators onto the model, and then out on the outside you have a collar with a Allen key. These do come with Loctite pre-applied. You're going to go on and slide the elevator half in and hold that piece up into the middle. You want to get that in the middle to where your elevator has full travel up and down once you've got that installed. All right, we have our elevators on. What I'm going to go on and do, because I keep dropping these actually come inside of the aircraft from shipping. They are the little carbon spars for shipping purposes only, and it says it right there on it. Take these guys out, get them out of here, because these do not need to be in the aircraft when you go to fly it. So make sure you take these out and discard them. Now, just to keep the elevators from flopping around while we're working on it, I am going to go on and put the push rods on. Now, that being said, when we fire the aircraft up for the first time, we may need to take these loose again to actually get the elevators at their correct resting position, and even. But for the time being, I want to stick them on here just so the elevator halves aren't flapping around the whole time. All right, now that we have all of that section done of the aircraft, let's flip it over and we can get our rudder installed now. All right, at this point, it's time to install our vertical stabilizer on the aircraft. You'll see there'll be some leads tucked up inside of the actual vertical stabilizer. You need to pull those 3 leads out. 2 of them are for lights and 1 is for the rudder. You also have a multi-function control board that is installed inside the aircraft here at the top that we're going to actually plug these leads into. And they are labeled for you, so you just need to match them up. Signal is yellow whenever you're looking at the wire with 3 leads. The other 2, red is your positive, black is your negative. Go on and line those up and install them into the aircraft. Once you've done that, we're going to key the rudder and vertical stabilizer down into the aircraft, making sure not to pinch those wires. If you feel any kind of major resistance, pull it back off, clean those wires up, and then reinstall it. Once you have it seated nice and firmly, we're going to install 4 of those countersunk wood screws into the rudder that's going to affix it to the model. So at this point, it's time to actually install our wings on the aircraft. Pretty simple. We're going to slide the 2 carbon spars into the aircraft. The shorter one goes to the front, the longer one goes to the back. Then you're going to plug in your 2 multi-function control boards that are located on both of your wing panels. Then just like on our Cougar or our B-25, you're going to slide the wing tips in, and you will have the 2 connectors at the bottom that are spring-loaded that just need to be snapped in. If you push on them, they should just go on and snap in. If for some reason they're not, close them, push it in a little bit, and then push it the rest of the way. They may be tight your first time putting them on and off. Now, the next part is our nose cone assembly for the F-16. Now, this is plastic cladded on the front, so you can remove the pitot tube and set the aircraft on the nose without having to worry about damaging it. We know some customers like to stand them up on their noses. But to put your pitot tube in, you just kind of turn it and rotate it until it hits that spot that's keyed in there for it. And push it in. And just like that, your pitot tube is on. For customers that fly off of grass fields or might have a chance of sticking this into some dirt, you may remove that before flight. Just makes it to where you don't break that. And then once you get all that done, it's just magnetic right onto the front, just like that. Super easy. So at this point, we have the aircraft back upside down, and we're going to get the ventral fins installed onto the bottom of the aircraft. Simple as lining them up and then taking 2 of those remaining countersunk machine threaded screws and getting those installed into the aircraft. Okay, pilots, so at this point, it's a good time to go on and install your receiver of choice in the aircraft. You need at least 7 channels to take advantage of all the features of this aircraft right out of the box. But in the case of this F-16, what I've done is I've gone on and hooked up my elevons as ailerons also, so they work in tandem. And to do that, you need at least 8 channels. It's pretty simple. You just unplug the 2 wires from the blue box that were labeled elevators, and you plug those into your receiver. And then you just remove the 1 wire that was originally for your elevator. If you don't care about that and you want to fly it as a conventional airplane, just hook them up as they're labeled out of the box. Now that I've turned the aircraft on and extended the gear, it is time to actually center our control surfaces. So what we're going to do is get it back in the stand. And at that point, with the aircraft turned on, we know that the elevators are in their neutral position. Now, the reason we waited until now with the power turned on to do this is we want to make sure our elevators are both the same for this part. So you need to measure 19 millimeters from the top of the fuselage down to where you're going to be putting the tip of your elevator at, as you see on the screen right now. Now, I just took a black marker and marked that 19 millimeter mark so I know on both sides where to put it. And once you do, you're going to put both of those centered that same way. And that will also make both of your stabs perfectly the same when they're put together. You need them to not have any roll in them, otherwise when you pull elevator, the aircraft's always going to be naturally rolling. So that's why you need to make sure these are measured and correct. It'll also give you the correct up deflection to keep the airplane flying. So it's a pretty important part. Make sure you do that right. After that, we're gonna go on and put our 2 linkages on for our split air brakes on the back. They are ball links on one side going into a slip fitting on the other. You just take your Allen key and tighten those up once you get them closed. I like to put mine on the slider switch on the back of my radio, but you could also put this on a 3-position, a 2-position switch, however you want to do it. But if you want infinite variation in the opening and closing, you'll need to put it on a slider or a roller of some sort. Okay, now it's just on to the pretty stuff, honestly. So we're gonna put our missile rails out on the wings. You'll see they actually come attached to one of the missiles. You just pull them apart, like so. And now we can take that and screw it on. So the way this is gonna work is you're gonna take the 4 remaining screws, and we're gonna just use those to attach them to the tip of the wing. Now use your Allen key and just screw that on, and that'll be affixed. And then you can just key your missiles back on. All right, at this point, it's as easy as just going on and keying in your 2 missiles on the outside once you have them installed. Now it's time to key all of our missiles and bombs on from the bottom. This is just for looks. I highly recommend your first flight flying the F-16 clean. The aircraft will fly a lot better without all the stuff hanging off of it. It's not that it can't fly with it, it's just a lot easier for a maiden flight if you don't take off with all those bombs and stuff on there. All right, pilots, this gets the F-16 all put together. I really cannot wait to see a bunch of our customers start getting this aircraft. I know a lot of guys have customized our old version of it. This new one is just so solid. I think a lot of people are gonna really love it, and it flies amazing. So, as always, guys, whether it's air, land, or sea, you can get it right here at Motion RC. Make sure you check this airplane out. Pre-order should be up at the time of this video. If pre-order's over, go get you one. What are you waiting on? We'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.